Hey guys, time for another little mission tutorial here. Go to our solar map and find out what kind of mission we're doing today. So we've covered survival, we've covered exterminate. Let us attack the defense missions. Now defense missions are similar to survivals in that it is a endless game mode type where you go through waves and waves and waves and waves and waves, and it's over when you lose or you decide to leave. Unlike survival, this is based less on time spent and more on the waves spent.
Our position has been compromised.
Every defense mission will have some form of object with which to defend, as the name of the match really kind of implies. In this case, you might have noticed the little highlighted illuminated ring before I stepped into this reactor area. And this reactor is the thing I'm trying to protect. So my goal in this mission is to destroy all the enemies before they can destroy our lovely little power reactor friend. This is of course usually much easier with more people than just by yourself, because you have more people with which to stop the opposing forces from destroying your object. And if they're all dead faster, then they're not going to be doing much damage to your little reactor friend. Some missions, instead of a big old reactor like that, will have a cryopod, which you might remember from when you first started playing and you were ejected into the first tutorial mission from your cryopod. Except for in this case, nobody actually gets ejected from the cryopod. The cryopod just sits there and you protect it from enemies. The health is visible in the upper left as well as the waves. The waves is important as it is to defense missions as time is to survival. Every 5 waves you get a chance to retreat, to leave the defense mission. And by doing so, you sacrifice the ability of continuing on, but you get to leave with all of the items that you have gathered up until that point. Very similar to survival, however, is the reward structure. Every 5 waves, not only do you have a chance to leave, but you also have the rewards changing. And very similar to how survival works, the reward structure is A, B, C, which means 5 and 10 minutes, and every set number like that, like 25 and 30, you will be getting rewarded with something from the A rotation, which you can find if you go to the wiki. Every 15 minutes, you will be getting something from the B's, and of course, every 20 minutes, you will get a prize from the C rotation. This, of course, again, like survival, is really not as important unless you are in something like the Void, where certain prizes only drop at certain points, and you really want those specific prime-related gear drops. Now, what I probably should do here is stop fooling around with these enemies and start actually delivering some pain, because it would be kind of silly of me to fail this while trying to teach you all how to play it, as it wouldn't really be getting a very good image across, would it? So, you know what everything is on here. You have your defense objective, you have the health on the UI telling you how safe it is. The same mechanics as to you, the player, are provided for the actual defense object. It has a shield that will restore if it's not getting shot. It has health that will not restore, although some moves actually can bring it back. So what else is in here? Well, outside of the rewards, many of the same benefits are here in defense missions as are for survival missions. there is a large number of dudes in a survival mission, but unlike a survival mission, all the enemies in a defense generally gravitate to where you are. This means that with a good group, you can very easily get some very good farming in for leveling up your items. Unlike survival though, defense missions aren't quite as solo friendly because there is a bunch of guys, and instead of worrying about just yourself and a resource that really just keeps coming back from killing people, you have to worry about keeping something else alive, which is harder to do than some might think at times, especially when those bad guys start getting up there in power levels. So what helps when it comes to Warframes in defense missions? Frost, which is what you see me using here, or his prime version, are quite handy because they can stop incoming damage from actually reaching the objective by using Snow Globe. Now this is a double-edged sword because Snow Globe does also prevent player attacks from coming in. So you can't, if you notice somebody coming in after you're outside of the Snow Globe, shoot in to get them out of that spot. You actually have to go inside the globe in order to fire. Likewise, Snow Globe will not finish or stop any of the melee-based enemies from going in and doing damage to your defense objective. This is a much more problematic thing on infested defense missions because the infested are primarily melee enemies. So they're going to be running up and punching the thing anyways, at which point Snow Globe, although it does slow down the enemies, sort of becomes a negative effect because, as you can see right there, I can't shoot that guy in there. What other frames are nice? Pretty much anything will work. I'm just going to let this one guy sit here for a minute. A Volt can also be handy because he also has defensive shields that can help protect the defense objective. Trinity's move of healing can sometimes actually restore the health of the orb. Likewise, sometimes Oberon can, although I do believe that may have been patched out. A unit like Nyx can be handy because she has a large area confusion move in her ability Chaos, which can turn enemies against themselves, which frees up the defense objective a little bit from being attacked while all the bad guys are shooting themselves. And really, that's your biggest benefit when it comes to these kind of matches, is you want to be able to defend the objective. Even to some extent, Rift is a good option, or Limbo in general, because he can stop outside damage from coming in. The other end of things, like, before I go into that, you'll see this is the reward. You have a countdown timer. You can extract or you can stay in battle longer. In this case, I'm going to extract because it's a defense mission and I'm playing by myself. Back on topic, Limbo works nicely because he can deny outside sources from damaging his anything within his sphere, but the downside to that is you cannot pick up items while inside of Limbo's rift areas, which in turn makes it a little difficult because you won't be regaining your energy or ammo or anything while it's going on. So likewise, Frost, if it's against the Corpus or against the Grineer, I will try to always bring a Frost to a defense mission because of Snow Globe, and primarily, entirely because of Snow Globe, because it has that extra protective layer. Now, something like a Loki or a Loki Prime could be handy because he does have a radial disarm move, which with a wide enough area will cause all the enemies to no longer have guns. So they'll all be melee. And then combined with a couple of people with some good weapons or slicing capabilities, they can really just run in there and mow them down, or you can maybe even distract them with Loki's decoy. Excalibur has a blind move that can be handy because it will stun dudes for a little while, and he also has his big AoE ultimate move that cast javelins and spears people, although the damage-based moves will kind of putter off the higher level enemies you face and the stronger they get, because damage doesn't scale as well as utility. Limbo, like I said, he has the rift abilities that can kind of keep the center objectives safe, but at the same time you're losing the ability to pick things up. It's better than nothing, in some ways, but at the same time it also kind of complicates things a little. Something like a Nyx or a Nyx Prime can be handy because they have chaos, which alters how enemies react to things, and therefore, since they're preoccupied shooting each other, damage isn't coming in towards your defense objective. Of course, Trinity can be handy because she can keep giving everybody energy, she can keep everybody healed up so that they can focus on defending the objective as opposed to them worrying about themselves. Vauban can be incredibly handy for defending things against the infested, because his ultimate move creates a essentially black hole that sucks everything nearby into it, and if they're stuck into this little hole and they can't go anywhere, then they're not attacking your objective. This isn't quite as effective as it used to be with the implement of the Tar MOAs and Mutualist MOAs to the infested faction, because now the infested actually have ranged attacks, so they can still get things from beyond the reach of his moves. He also has Bastille, which will kind of prop people up in suspended animation for a couple of minutes, rendering them incapable of attacking as well. Volt can come in handy because he also has a shield move. Unlike Frost shield move, Volt's does not have a health, it's just entirely duration. Also, unlike Frost's snow globe, his shield does not go 360 degrees around, so it will require thoughtful placement, and depending on the objective, if it's a cryopod as opposed to a big core, it may be more or less effective because of the angles and how the bad guys can actually shoot it. Now, just because I say these are better frames, again, does not mean these are the only frames that you can use for these missions. Infested, even an Ember or an Ember Prime could work really well. She has a move that creates a wall of fire, which is going to damage enemies when they run into it. You could go with a flat-out attack-based build that's just made for doing damage, like Ash, and just keep teleporting around and stabbing everybody, and go with the if everybody's dead they can't do anything routine. I mean, all the Warframes are viable. It's just if you want things to be a little bit easier, there's frames that will make things a little bit easier, like Frost Prime because of Snow Globe, or normal Frost because of Snow Globe. And again, it really depends on how you mod things too. A completely unmodded or counterintuitively modded kind of Frost, I mean, maybe your Frost isn't built to maximize the use out of Snow Globe, so he wouldn't necessarily be as useful as one that is for a defense mission. So it's really partly in how you play your frame, who you're playing with, and just what difficulty point you are when you're doing these missions. Now, as I said, every 5 minutes, or 5 waves I should say, you get a reward. You don't get the chance to leave outside of that 5-wave mark, so you really want to kind of make sure you're paying attention. As far as etiquette goes, most of the time people would prefer if you do not stay very far away. I mean, it might be the smart thing logistically to do because you're stopping enemies from getting to the thing, but this can also commonly lead to what's referred to as door heroes, which somebody is standing in, say, a spawn area of the bad guys that leads into the place, and they're killing everything all the way out there, and they're far enough away that everybody standing back at the objective isn't really getting anything for being there in the match. Is it still making you win the match? Yes, but it also kind of negatively impacts most of the other players' play experience. So I'm not saying that it's not going to happen and that you shouldn't do it, because if that's how you play, that's how you play. I'm not one to tell you how to. But etiquette-wise, you should still be, especially if you're in a public match, kind of thinking about the other players in your match and how you can best work together to keep things going. If you're killing all the enemies away and I'm the only person back at the objective, and then all of a sudden a storm of bad guys somehow manages to get there, if I can't keep that thing, then the objective is gone and everybody's just wasted all that time. Different factions might have different objectives, as mentioned before. You might see, like, the reactors, you might see the cryopods. Against the infested, you might even have a standing up cryopod. It's like a little double unit. Tactics will change depending on what you're fighting, of course, because infested are more melee, Corpus and Grenier are more ranged. You have to kind of worry about different enemies within the factions. Difficulty will have a big play in things, because the harder it gets, the harder it's going to be to keep that objective alive. And the little bit more in tune you're going to have to be with your teammates. So it's just kind of common sense for the most part when it comes to etiquette on a defense mission. I mean, if you're there and you think you're going to have to leave at some point, don't wait till the last second to pick extract in between the waves. If you think you're not going to stay there, don't pick to stay. Because the rudest thing you can really do in a defense mission is saying stay, and then everybody else goes, okay, well, with the four of us we can do it, so yeah, let's all stay. And then at the last second you decide to bail, and you leave them to pretty much fail because they can't do it without that fourth person. So as far as etiquette in these missions go, that's the big thing. Just be considerate. It's a game. Everybody's there to have fun. Throwing people under the bus isn't going to make anybody have a whole lot of fun outside of maybe you if you're a terrible person. That's a defense mission. If you have any questions or any comments or anything of the like, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll get to it when I get a chance and try to address it. Until then, keep having fun and I'll see you next time.